Magandang araw. Ako si Kui Code. Welcome back to my channel where I teach Python through fun and practical examples. Today we'll be continuing to dive into software design patterns. In this example, this is a design pattern called the composite pattern. So composite is a structural design pattern that lets you compose objects into tree structures and then work with these objects as if they were individual objects. So in this starter code here, I have a goblin class, which simply has an attack method. We have a goblin squad class, which is basically a list of goblins, which you can add goblins to the list, and then when you call the goblin squad attack method, it just iterates through all the goblins and just prints out or just calls the attack method. So what we have here is 3 goblins. The first 2 remain into a squad, and then the third one is solo. And now we have a list that's composed of a goblin squad and a regular goblin. So we pass the list into the attack method, and then generally we would check if it's a goblin, call the method, and if it's a goblin squad, call its method. So we go ahead and run this. It seems to work. So goblin squad attacks. You have the goblin squad, which has 2, and then you have the solo one, which is the third one. Here's the thing though. Why do we even need this? You can just literally do it like that. What happens if we just do that? It still works. So this is because of Python and duck typing. But let's just say if you had Java or C++ or C Sharp, it wouldn't work the same way. And the reason being is because, and again, I just want to be clear that the whole point of these videos is that these design patterns are supposed to be able to work regardless of what language you are, or regardless of which language you're using. So, for example, if it was like C Sharp or Python, sorry, C Sharp or Java, you can't have a list that has 2 different types. You would need to declare the type like, goblin. But then if this is a goblin type, well, you can't include this because this is a goblin squad type. So what you would need to do in those cases, and what we're going to do in this case, just for the sake of making it the same, is we would define another type, an abstract type called enemy. So we'll do this. We'll pass enemy, or we'll have an enemy class. And then, of course, in those other languages, you could just literally do this, have an enemy type, and then goblin comes from enemy type. And then we have goblin squad also comes from enemy type. And then that way, if you have a list of enemies, both of these are technically enemies, which means this method will be, entities will be a list of enemies, like that. And then this would work because both of the objects in here are enemies, so that's fine. Obviously, we don't need to do this with Python because it's implicitly typed, or it's a forget the term. It's not statically typed. It's dynamically typed. I believe it's called. It's dynamic, where the code figures out what class it is at runtime. You don't need to explicitly say what type it is. So now that we have this, we have this is an enemy type, and this is an enemy type. But we're just gonna make it more generic. Instead of Goblin Squad, we'll just call it Enemy Group. And then the cool thing is that now we can just make a new one here. So now we have a troll type as well. So we have Goblin, we have Troll, we have an Enemy Group. We wouldn't call this goblins because now we can have trolls. So we'll just say members. It'll just be called add. You wouldn't be passing in goblin, you'd be passing in an enemy, like that. Self.members, and this would be an enemy, and then enemy, and then enemy. And I think that would work, except this would be changed as well to an enemy group. This doesn't exist anymore, it's just called add. And I can even add in a troll. So we'll just do troll1 equals troll, and we'll just do troll berserker, like that. So now we have an enemy group. We'll just add the third one in here as well. So this is number 3. We got our small squad, which is an enemy group. And then we can also add in our an enemy group that's composed of the small squad group as well as our troll group. And we don't need to do this because technically we can just do this horde.attack and it should still work. And look at that, still works. So first we have our goblin squad here. The goblin squad, I guess I forgot to change the text for wait, what is this for? Oh, the enemy group. That's supposed to be a squad, not a goblin squad, but you know, whatever, it's the same. So first we have our first squad, which consists of 2 groups. The first group is another goblin squad, so this one has 3, and then this one, spelled that wrong, but we can just ignore that. This one still works. So like I said, even though with Python, you don't have to do this. It's called duck typing. You don't actually have to have this, because as long as the method is the same, you can just call the object.attack, because you know the troll has an attack method, the goblin has an attack method. It doesn't matter what it is because they both work the same. But if you were to do that in C++ or C sharp, you explicitly need to say what type it is, and then it kind of just, you know, and then you need to put a bunch of if statements. So instead of having all those if statements, you simply have the contract that is all of the types that come from the parent need to do the attack, and then you would literally just make a list of attack or of enemy objects. That's it for this video. So if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe for more coding challenges. I guess this technically isn't coding challenge. But let me know in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions for future videos. See you next time on Code. Paalam.